Well, hello, internet world. Cliff Ravenscraft here,
I'm Stephanie Ravenscraft.
and we are broadcasting live an episode of Family from the Heart podcast. I believe this is episode number 439 of this episode. Stephanie, what are we talking about today? What can people prepare themselves to receive in this amazing piece of content that you and I have decided to stream live on the internet and put out as our 439th episode of Family from the Heart, the audio podcast?
That's your job. Not my job.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I was thinking, we should probably figure out what it is that we're going to talk about each week and kind of prepare an outline in advance and all of this other stuff. But then I was thinking about that as I was saying, what are we going to talk about today? And I wanted to get a pen and a piece of paper and create some sort of list of topics. But then as I was working on that this morning, here's what I read. This is the description currently for the audio podcast Family from the Heart. Are you ready?
Mhm.
In the Family from the Heart podcast, Cliff and Stephanie give you a behind the scenes look into the lives of the Ravenscraft family. This is an entertaining podcast that is meant to be an authentic, and here's the key word, unscripted unscripted look into the lives of a family who have given up on the ordinary to pursue the lives for which they were created. Be sure to check out Stephanie's current podcast, Thriving Mosaic, in your favorite podcast directory. And be sure to check out Cliff's current main podcast, The Cliff Ravenscraft Show, in your favorite podcast directory. So, because I want to remain faithful to at least what is currently describing our podcast as an unscripted podcast, I decided let's just see what comes up.
There you go. That's fair. That works. That works really well for me. I don't know how you ever created a description for this podcast that contain a description for any podcast that contains the word unscripted.
Well, unscripted, I can still have outlines. I can still prepare the topics that are going to be introduced and the overall message and theme that I
Uh
hope
huh.
to convey in an
Uh
episode,
huh. Uh huh.
and still take an unscripted approach to talking about each of those things. See,
No, I
there's a
understand.
difference between unscripted and unplanned or unprepared for or unorganized. And it just so happens this podcast happens to be all of those
All of
things.
the above.
So, Stephanie, tell us about the new podcast artwork. Pull it up on your phone and tell me, what does it evoke for you?
Comfort. I don't even need to
Okay.
pull it up. That's the first thing that I saw. Um, it feels cozy and comfortable. I think part of that is number one, the color scheme is very calming. The fireplace is lit in the corner. There are plenty of throw pillows on the couch and the chairs. The family pictures that are surrounding the family from the heart. I even like I even really like the light fixture hanging on the
Yes.
dock. Like the whole thing feels comforting and calming to me.
You know what? I'm going to, instead of what I'm doing here, and of course, I want to remain faithful to the fact that this is an audio podcast. The only thing is, though, is hopefully your podcast artwork has already updated and changed in your podcast directory. By the way, if it hasn't, here's what I want to encourage you to do. I think the only one I know that like holds on to the old artwork for a very long period of time is Pocket Casts. So go into Pocket Casts where it has the our show listed, and it's got the list of the episode titles and what you want to do. Can I actually do something? Can I just share with you an image in this shared thing? I don't think I can share it. But anyway, what I would encourage you to do, oh, that's what I can do. I could actually show my screen. So let me do that. What I would encourage you to do is press and hold on the old artwork that's showing in Pocket Casts. And if you do that, it should at the bottom of the screen say refresh image. And if you click that, it should refresh it to the new version of our podcast artwork. By the way, this podcast started in January of when did it start? Do we know?
2008.
That's right, January
Yes.
2008. So, does that mean the show is getting ready to turn, is it 18 years old?
No, because
No,
McKenna
13 years
changed
old?
in 2005. Oh, um,
Hold on,
6
24.
16 in
Yeah, 6,
January?
that would be it, right?
Yeah,
We're about 16 years into this podcast, and we've had the same podcast for 16, or same
same
podcast art
artwork.
for, yeah, for 16 years.
And that was one of the
So
things that I told you when we were talking about when we would record, this podcast moving forward. It's like that artwork is so outdated. That artwork really shows 2 parents raising 3 kids. Um,
yep,
like, that was
and young kids at that, like, very small kids.
yeah. Well, they were in 2008. And so, I've been asking for new artwork for this show for a very long time, and I was out to lunch with my friend Sarah yesterday, and you sent this to me, and I really, really love it.
There we go. Alright, so now, okay, so I need to figure out, how do I show this, there we go. So there's you and I on the left of our, live stream video screen, and there is the new image of the Family from the Heart podcast, and I wanna tell the story about this. So I was, reaching out to Mike and Isabella Russell, who are very
Mhm.
good friends of mine and Stephanie's. We've known them for many years. They own a service called Music Radio Creative, and I was watching Mike Russell's most recent, content on YouTube, and he's like, "Hey, here are some great tools for podcasters using AI." And he used the brand new custom GPTs, Chat GPTs, to create a service that will allow you to go in and request artwork for your podcast using generative AI. And it's based and trained on some of the most popular podcast artwork out there. And all I did, I've never had something work this perfectly right from the get-go. I simply loaded up Mike Russell's, custom Chat GPT for podcast artwork, and I typed in, "Can you create podcast artwork for a podcast titled Family from the Heart?" And no kidding, 30 seconds later, the image that you are seeing, whether you're watching this live stream on the internet or whether you're just looking at the image in your podcast directory, as long as you see Family from the Heart kind of like on a back wall, and there's a couch beneath it, and chairs to the side, and a little fireplace over to the right. There's pictures on the mantle, pictures on the wall, and stuff like that. And is that cacti that's over there on the left?
Yes.
But it,
Yes.
but but this whole image, that is a first attempt at
It's
this
really
podcast
good.
artwork.
It's really good. I know we've already said. I mean, if I was now that I'm staring at it big on my screen, like, I see a little thing that I would change, but it's really not a big deal in the sense of being the thumbnail for the
Yeah,
podcast artwork. So
and very little, I mean, nobody's really ever gonna look at it at this size. This is about as big as
right.
it's meant to be, and it's not necessarily meant to be in evoke, like, "This is us." Although, do you see there's the little lamp, like, over top of the fireplace, and there's a little,
It's cutting
photo.
the photo in half. No?
No, no. So, what I'm talking about, okay, so are you able to see you're not seeing my mouse pointer. Okay. So, okay, how do I say this? So there's a photo of a husband and a wife, for example, and the husband has a green shirt and white
And white
hair.
hair? Yeah.
Yeah. That it's like, okay, so that's totally me, and is that supposed to be you to the left kind of thing? Is like, wait a second. And
Well, I don't
I
have
don't
that
know if I
color
can
hair,
blow it up.
but,
I know.
um,
I don't I don't know
it's
if I'm
funny.
able to blow up that image, but
He's
it's
happy.
kind of,
He's
let's see here.
happy.
Check him out. Like,
He's happy.
all right,
We'll go
so
with
there you go.
try making fun of him. I think he's
I
adorable.
You know what though? I love it. I love it because it's an artistic, approach to that particular thing, and now I'm doing all sorts of things on my computer that I don't mean to do. All right, that's it. That's all I wanted to share there. So how do I can I want to remove my screen share and I want to go back to us and I want to put back our lower thirds. There we go. So the first topic of today's episode is, and I've got to make a list so I can put in our show notes, our new podcast
Our
artwork.
new artwork, and I do. I really, really love it.
What does it mean anything for you? I mean, to think about it, to get new artwork. I wondered because there's something that I feel inside about having new artwork and changing it from the old image. And so I wonder, does it evoke any thoughts or feelings in you, either the artwork itself or just the fact that we've changed the artwork? What does it have any meaning to you, even if it's just made up now in the moment?
I mean, if anything, it really represents the changing of a season, you know? Whereas the old artwork shows, 2 adults and 3 small, um, children, stick people, but still. Um, this one shows photos on the wall, an empty living room. Um, like, I really feel like it marks the change of a season. It marks the change of a life.
Yeah,
So,
I
that's
like that. I do like the idea of the fact that whereas the artwork before, it's like the family is all together, all 5 of us, and we're holding hands in the artwork, and that's and really that's what it's like for so long, that's our lives have been, we're all present together kinda thing. Excuse me. And I like the fact that you point out is like, wow, now it's kind of like there are photos of different children and there might even be significant others in some of those photos and it's almost like the photos also represent memories of what
mhm.
we've done together as a family, and it's almost as though maybe there's some sort of metaphor for those photos on the wall are the archived podcast episodes of this podcast.
That's a little too much, but okay.
But I'm just saying, I love the fact that you pointed out the fact that the living room is empty, and so it does represent this is the empty nest stage of
Yep.
the family. It's our house remains cleaner for much longer than it ever has before. It's more straightened up and organized than it ever has been.
Um,
Um, the
the Leo and Maggie is Megan and Jacob's dog. Leo and Maggie really do their best to keep it messy, though. Like, they are
oh,
pulling all of the decorative, Christmas pillows off of the couch. They are Maggie pulls down the couch cushions themselves. She doesn't pull them down, but the dogs walk on the pillows on the back of the couch, and she knocks them over because she thinks she's Leo-sized, but she's not. And, they string, they do their best to make it messy.
yeah. I was just thinking because with this artwork image generator, I could go in because this thread is still there. It's like, what do you think about this? And I didn't even tell ChatGPT thank you. I was so rude. But anyway, but it's so good. But I could say, hey, I love this. I want you to absolutely keep this original theme. I want you to stay as true to this as possible. However, could you please throw dog toys all over the back, all over the floor? And could you make could you
The
bring
couch
one of the
more. Yeah.
yeah, yes. Anyway, that's fun. I
Yeah,
love it.
but no, I think it's perfect.
I do too. How could it have created that on the first try though?
I know.
Is that insane?
I don't think it's insane. No. I
It
I
was
really
created
think
on
that it captures the family from the heart. Like, I really think that
yeah,
yeah,
I love it.
you got
Anyway,
what
so
you asked
new
for.
artwork. I did. Well, I got more than what I asked for. That's the
Very
key.
true.
It's like I I did not anticipate when I went into this free generator that Mike Russell from Music Radio Creative created. I did not. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put okay link to podcast artwork creator because I know people are gonna want this. It'll be in the show notes,
Mhm.
so I will put a link to that chat custom chat GPT made by Mike Russell. I will put that in there because I know some people are going to want to play with this, right?
Right.
And the funny part is some people have probably paid a couple $100 or more to have their podcast artwork generated. And I would encourage everybody just go in there and have it type in the name of your show, tell it I mean, I didn't tell it even anything about what our show was. I figured our the name of our podcast is pretty self-explanatory.
Right.
But I was going to go in and give it more instruction if I think I needed to have it revised and get a little bit more of a feel of what we wanted to convey. But again, it was perfect the first time around. But you could go in and tell it the name of your show. You can explain who your target audience is. You can explain what the overall theme and message and what you hope to convey with your show. And this thing will generate artwork for you, and it'd be shock. And by the way, for free.
I
For
like that
free.
you're like, for free.
For free. So
hear you
now I'm thinking, what's that?
I can hear you shouting through the floor.
Yes, I know. But anyway, I'm thinking it's like I might want to go through and have run all of my shows through this artwork generator and
Mhm.
do some refreshes. Another thing that this conveys for me, Stephanie, and it's something that you alluded to earlier. You said I think it's time for us to it's time for us to get new artwork. And I've heard you say that, and it's like, the question is how consistent and how frequently are we gonna come back? And, of course, before Mike created this thing, it's like, how much time, effort, and energy, or even financial resources do I wanna put into going through and working and going back and forth with an art person to create what would be the essence of this new season of the show? And so I never did it, but now that it's done, it actually brings a little bit more of the relevance of the show today, just
Mhm.
because it does take away the, mom and dad holding, hands with 3 young kids, and it's like, no, this is a husband and a wife. This is their living room. It's clear that they have a loving family, and that family is represented on the photos on the wall. And it's a warm, inviting place that is open for that family to gather whenever they desire. And I'm like, that is exactly what we need to be communicating, Stephanie, you and I, to the world. And I was thinking, you and I launched a podcast. Right. When was that? When we launched Building a Life and Business Together
I
podcast.
really don't know.
Okay,
Was it
so I can
22? No,
I'm gonna
this is for 21? Was it sometime in 2021?
I have to pull it up here, and I have to find the artwork on my screen. Okay, I found the artwork. So by the way, we did 15 podcast episodes of that show, Building a Life and Business Together. We started it March of 2022, and we went all the way to October of 2022, and then we stopped. And then episode 15 was 1 year later, March of 2023, but that was just a one-off episode to promote our Free the Dream workshop.
Mhm.
So we did several episodes of that brand new podcast, and I'm like, okay, well, now that it's not, we're not coming together and talking family, because that it's like when I thought family from the heart, because of the artwork,
Mhm.
that we have to come here and talk about our kids and what we're doing with our kids every single week. And as a result of that, it's like, well, we're not going to have enough stories. We're not going to have enough content to keep family from the heart active. But I wanted a show where you and I would be able to talk about things and share our lives online with people and be entertaining, educational, encouraging, and inspirational.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, what is it that kind of represents who we are today? And I'm like, well, we're building a life and a business together. So let's just create a separate podcast from Family from the Heart where we talk about our life and our business, and that, because that's really what we're focused on. But the reality is that you and I are still very much husband and wife. Our business is not at the forefront of our relationship. Our business is something that allows us to live the lifestyle that we have. our business is very much something that you and I are both passionate about, and the work that we're doing is very important. And so but it's the life. But the thing is that we're still family. Family still is a representative key component of it. And so I feel like having Family from the Heart and this new artwork, for me, I'm feeling like I don't think we bring back building a life and business together. Not only because it was almost impossible for me to speak out loud the name of the podcast every single time we recorded one, but I think that we could do a lot with Family from the Heart. And just knowing that as a husband and wife, we happen to be a family that has always had a business, and we can talk about what's going on in our business as it relates to how our business is impacting our family and how our family impacts our business if that business side of things come up. And I say all of that to be incredibly long-winded and say I think I'm ready for Family from the Heart to be a pretty consistent show moving forward, knowing that I've said that countless times, for the last several episodes every time we relaunch. Okay, thoughts? Stephanie.
I think it makes sense to change how we approach the content for the show because, again, it is still our family. It's still from the heart. It's just we're doing our day to day has changed, and and I think that it's still the place to come to talk about those things. But when we wanted to talk more about business, we thought we had to start a whole other podcast, and really we didn't.
So, one of the things that came out of your hot seat. By the way, Stephanie is a member of the Next Level Mastermind group, which you could learn more about, by the way, if you wanted to, over at nextlevelmastermind.info, not .com, but nextlevelmastermind.info. By the way, that's a mastermind group for full-time self-employed business owners, and it's pretty awesome. So go check it out. Stephanie, you were in the hot seat in the Next Level Mastermind this past week,
Yes.
and something like a big revelation stood out, and it was like a major insight, and it has everything to do with your ability to remain committed and consistent to creating content. Would you like to tell the story about what that insight is and what it means for you?
Well, it started on Monday for me. Our mastermind meets on Wednesday mornings, but that really started on Monday evening for me when I recorded an episode of Thriving Mosaic. Excuse me, I was actually interviewed for my own podcast by a dear friend of ours from New Zealand, Liz, and she asked me a question. And I was even surprised by my own answer. A lot of my answers surprised me, but, um, but they're all true and authentic. So, but she asked me a question that, that I answered, and it just made it was really an epiphany moment for me. I just sat back and thought about that, and so then on Wednesday in my hot seat, um, somebody had commented that, like, she wasn't feeling my passion for what I wanted to do or something like that. I don't even remember how the exact comment, came. And so through my answer and through finding out, it's just like, I miss doing live. And the funny thing, the live recordings of podcasts, just like we spent a decade recording all of our content live from the Lost podcast 2 times a week to um the other entertainment shows we were doing, like, almost everything was live. I'm looking back now through my Facebook memories to see the things that I was doing 15 years ago, and it's like almost every day there's, like, going live with such and such, going live with like, everything was, "I have to get home because we're recording such and such live at," and, sorry. Um, I had to resituate my chair, but I really miss the ability to be live, to record live, to engage with an audience. So I hope that these as we're talking about this and that as it becomes well known that people will be able to show up and interact and so because I really miss those parts of what we were doing when we first started podcasting.
Exactly. So you're right. We did discover it's like, wait a second. All even you were talking about the fact that okay, you were doing full time mom live. We were doing Family from the Heart live. We were doing back then. We were doing Grey's Anatomy live, Lost live. I mean, we were doing all of these podcasts, and we were doing them live. And there's a different energy when you're
Yes.
performing, even if it seems like nobody's there and watching or interacting or commenting. It's just the fact that somebody could be. And
Mhm.
right now, I mean, we did not announce that we were going to be here today to anyone, but even right now we have 6 people who are currently viewing, and that number has jumped up. We just hit 7 who are viewing right now. There have already been 5 people. Oh, look at that. We just attracted an 8th person. Woohoo! All right. So, but we have 5 people who have given a heart. They love that we're here. And 1 person has given us a thumbs up, or there's a variation between likes and loves. Maybe just 1 person loves the fact that we're here and the other ones like it. But anyway, the fact that the folks are here. And then here's the situation. We're currently broadcasting this to Stephanie's Facebook profile, my Facebook profile, and my YouTube channel. And by the way, if you are watching us right now, if you are one of the 7 people watching us right now, would you go to the comment section and say hello and let us know that you're there? And if you want to ask us a question, we don't have anything planned as far as what we're talking about. We're just making stuff up while we're here. So feel free to ask us a question if you'd like to, and or just say hello in the chat. So if you just go on to the chat on YouTube or on Facebook and leave a comment or a chat, it will pop up over here and we will see it. Now, no pressure to do so. I don't know if anybody will do it, but there is something about that energy of doing it live. So for example, here we go. We have Liz Underhill says, "Hello, ha ha ha." So good making things up. Yes, absolutely. And then we have Jim Rat says, "Hello, long time listener." Awesome. Glad to have you here. So he's coming through on YouTube. So we do have an audience. It's kind of even if it's 5, 7 people watching live, there's just something about the fact that you could ask a question and people can respond. And we're hoping to do some
It's a
things into
different
the future.
energy.
It is different energy.
It's a different energy, and I missed that.
So what does that mean for you personally, Stephanie, and
So
your thriving Mosaic podcast?
I'm actually going to start live stream Thursday, which I believe was something that wasn't that what didn't we have live stream Thursday? Didn't we do like all of our shows on Thursdays at one point
Yeah,
in the
it
past?
it
And
was. We started at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and stream Thursday ended at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
yeah,
And I
and
think we had some breaks in between shows, but
yeah.
still, it was pretty much an all day streaming
And
thing.
I don't think I was on every show that was
No.
being recorded that day because obviously my schedule at that time had me in and out of the house a lot. But I like the name Live Stream Thursday. I've already changed my calendar blocked time. It used to say blocked time for coaching and now it says live stream Thursday. So I will be taking Thriving Mosaic live every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yay! Thriving Mosaic
Starting
live, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Starting when?
starting November
The week
30th,
the week after Thanksgiving?
the week after Thanksgiving. Yes.
I love it. That is so cool. What a huge announcement. And
Yeah.
of course, they will be able to find Stephanie streaming live on her Facebook profile at facebook.com/Stephanie Ravenscraft.
That is
And we are having trouble getting Stephanie's YouTube channel configured. They won't let her.
they do not like me.
YouTube's like, listen, Stephanie's had this YouTube channel for a very long time. She's got one video she's ever published, and now, no, hold on. Before the
Oh,
second,
okay,
there's the
before.
second one.
Okay.
So she's got one video that she's ever published, and as a result of that, we're a little sus that it's been sitting here. Now she wants to publish a second video, and she wants to put a link to an affiliate in her. She wants to put a hyperlink in our description. They said no, you can't put a link in your description of your
Right.
video, even though your video says there's a link in your description. So it's like, would you like to do ID verification? So we send them a photo ID that has to manually be reviewed, and they rejected it. How can you? It's like it is a
They
photo
rejected it
ID,
twice. They
and they
rejected it
rejected it
twice.
twice.
So,
And I
I
think what I was reading as I read closer into the fine print, they're like, "Listen, we need a little bit more recent content from you, and we need some content that shows and demonstrates that the content that you're creating today is within the scope of our terms of service, and you're not going against community guidelines. So why don't you come back to us in the future after you've published some content? By the way, until then, you can't have hyperlinks." And
no,
it seems like also maybe we can't have live streams,
live streams
which
because you tried to do that
that's the main
before.
content that you'd want to do.
But
But here's the thing.
in my
Go ahead. But
defense, in my defense, I didn't know I had a YouTube channel because I didn't set myself up a YouTube channel. You did it for me,
mhm.
and to post what I think was just was that not what was on there?
It was an unboxing of your
Oh, my
Cricut.
Cricut. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it's let's see. I'm gonna go to youtube.com and I'm just gonna search for Stephanie Ravenscraft. You know, one thing that will help is if some people will subscribe to you. And let's see here. So that's weird. Your youtube.com/ at Stephanie Ravenscraft 7022. And we could probably get that fixed. So, but actually, you know what you can do? I just confirmed. You can go to Stephanie Ravenscraft. Here we go. You can go to Stephanie Ravenscraft, or youtube.com/Stephanie Ravenscraft, and it will be there. So you have one shorts video,
That
and
is very old,
oh, that's not even you. That is not even the YouTube channel we're trying to use.
but that is me.
That is you, and that is an old. That one's probably under your Gmail account.
I yeah.
Yeah, so that's not it. Here's the one we want to use, which is okay. So this one is at Stephanie Ravenscraft 7022, and it does have it's got your Soul Planner
It's got
video,
my
which
soul
is the new
planner
one
in.
you just did,
Yeah,
and it's got your Cricut. So somehow we need to get some video, or we need to get some subscribers to this channel.
right.
So if you could go to youtube.com/ at Stephanie Ravenscraft 7022, that would help Stephanie out immensely. And I'm
Um,
going to put link to Stephanie's YouTube in the show notes, because if I can, I'm going to try to iron out and fix what is messed up there with her having two different YouTube
gotcha.
channels. And I hate the idea that your other YouTube channel actually has the URL youtube.com/Stephanie Ravenscraft.
Guess that's right.
And
Can you just move
because
it too?
even
That's what you should be able to do. Um,
that's going to be a
the
bit of work.
yeah, the profile picture for the incorrect one.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that photo the other day. That was probably taken around 2009,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm in this very long process of stopping coloring my hair. And I didn't want, because I had been coloring my hair red for so many years, I didn't want to just let my gray grow out and have like this huge grow out line. And so we highlighted, took my hair lighter. Right now, what you're looking at is probably as close to my natural color as I can get with my gray growing in, which looks really good, by the way. I'm really enjoying my gray hair. But like all of this bottom stuff right here, this is probably the color that my hair was when you met me, right? Like that's pretty close to what my hair was when we
Very
met.
close, yeah.
But but somebody was telling me the other day that it's very possible that my gray hair, when it's all grown out, could be it will be a completely different head of hair than what I'm used to working with. And I was talking about how when I was younger, my hair was really curly and I miss having curly hair. And so they she says, she's like, Look at this," like, it was a stylist, but she says, "Look at this right here. Your gray hair is curly." So my gray hair is coming back in curly, so maybe I will have a full head of curly gray hair at some point in the future, which I would really, really enjoy. But that, that profile picture from 2009, I was talking about that because that's like, my hair was so curly at that time.
Yeah.
Then as I kept coloring it and doing not fun stuff to it, it lost its curl. Just became frizz.
Yep. Hey, real quickly here, Peggy Easterling says, "I love live too, avoiding the edits."
I don't need to be live to avoid the edits because if you listen to my latest podcast episode, I literally say, I'm going to start over. And I forgot to edit that out. And then I just start over. So
Yeah. But with live, you just say, "Oh, that was a mistake." And anyway, it is
just
what
roll
it
with
is.
it.
Hello, everyone. And you just roll with it. So, yes, Peggy, we definitely understand avoiding the edits. Oh, by the way, Stephanie, I do want to let you know that one of the things that I can do is I will be able to take the video recording from StreamYard, which is what you and I are using to broadcast live. And I will be able to take that video download and then upload it as a video to your YouTube channel. So we will be able to still consistently produce content. It just won't be live to YouTube until we get the live stream set up
To
for you.
fix it. Okay.
Yep. All right. Next up, Liz says, when you're publishing, it would be nice to see the link for the YouTube. I'm usually in podcasts, and it's so nice. And it's so
She's
nice
saying
to see the YouTube video also.
she's also,
And then she says, "Sorry, the link for your podcast episode."
I love
So
the
she
hat
says, "When you're."
in, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
Liz's
love the
hat.
hat. Yes.
So
Yes.
so she's
And the
saying,
focus.
when you're publishing, it would be nice to see the link for the podcast. So so Liz, if you're still there, I'd love to know what you mean when you're publishing. Do you mean when we're live, you'd like to see the link to the podcast? When you're publishing to YouTube, you'd like to see the link to the podcast? Just trying to get some clarity on what you're desiring there. But my assumption that I'm going to operate under for just a moment is the fact that if we're taking Stephanie's live stream and it's on YouTube, that in the description of the YouTube video, you would love it if there was a link to to the actual podcast website. So that's what I'm going to assume that you're meeting, unless you clarify that in the chat follow up or an email follow up if you've moved on and did some other things with your Saturday. All right. So going back. Okay. So I got Stephanie's growing her gray hair out as a topic.
I
What
am.
are you laughing at?
No, I think that it's funny that you wrote it down. I am, and it's a really big deal for a lot of people. Um, I was just watching, I've who was I watching on Instagram? Mm, Valerie Bertinelli, and somebody asked if she still colors her hair, and she says, "Yes, every 2 weeks." And that's why I'm not. I don't I'm already I was coloring my hair every 4 to 5 weeks. Um, it is destroying my hair, and I've been doing it since I was 17, and I'm just kind of tired of going through the process, and I would rather have a, full head of healthy gray hair than a not full head of color treated ruined hair. So Yes, I have started this process. Well, no, I
I
am
was
I'm
not
in the process. I started it a long time ago
I was kind of
this
concerned at
year.
first. It's like, it's like, okay, that's interesting. I never really thought about that because I've always enjoyed the way. I mean, you come home and you have your hair colored, and your hair's always looked beautiful and things like that. And then you're like, I think I'm gonna let my hair turn gray and just let it go natural. And I'm like, huh. And but I do like how it's coming out. It's really cool, and I have seen a lot of people, our couples our age, where the wife is letting her hair grow out, or yeah, and I
Yeah,
will tell you, somebody who did that was Jennifer Willits, was one of the first ones that really stood out to me. And I don't know if you've seen her transformation
I
from
haven't, but
back
I
when she was coloring her. I'll
yeah,
ask me after we're done, and I will show
okay.
you. Or maybe in just a minute I can actually pull it up and well, I don't wanna do that because this is an audio podcast, so I'm not gonna do it because I don't wanna give people who are watching live all the benefits
Yeah.
of stuff. Although
You know,
it could
somebody
be.
asked me,
Yes? Somebody
somebody
asked you what?
asked me, when I started this, so it's been going on all year, and I took probably the last 6 months of last year just to mentally prepare for me, for just to mentally prepare myself to look in the mirror and see me when I didn't have red hair. Um, did that come out right? So when I don't
Yes.
have red hair, I'm still seeing myself when I look in the mirror. Okay. And so when I started this process earlier than in the year, and I'm doing the highlight phases to get some of the red out, or to get most of the red out, and my gray is starting to, my roots are starting to get lengthen in inches, and they're like, "What's Cliff think about this? Like, did you ask Cliff before you decided to let your hair grow gray?" I'm like,
Did you get permission?
no, because his opinion doesn't matter. He didn't ask me what I thought when he let his hair go gray."
That's
So
hilarious. That is
so
hilarious.
it's funny
Hey,
for
real
you to say for you to tell me that, it's funny for you to tell me that you were like, "Okay." Like, anyway,
yeah, no,
thank you for
it's
you
not that I.
never gave me that.
Yeah, no, it's like I'm like, "Okay," and like, I guess what I was doing when I say, "Oh," like, "Okay." So, I was trying to, it's like, prepare myself,
Sure.
what am I about ready to, am I, what will this look like when I see my wife with not this, what I've been used to seeing, is that's all. It wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're gonna do this, and you didn't talk to me about it," it wasn't
No,
like
I
that at all.
no, I understand. I just for you to, like, have to take the time to mentally prepare for what, because I took 6 months to mentally prepare for what I was gonna start seeing once the process started. So,
Yeah.
it just that you anyway, that's all.
All right. So Mr. Espresso on YouTube says, "Hi, just stepped in. Also, longtime listener from Europe. Love you both and happy to see your smiling faces." Well, thank you, Mr.
You.
Espresso.
Thank you.
Hey,
You know
by the
I
we need to
record all of my podcasts as if I'm talking to longtime listeners. Like,
yes, I do know that.
yeah. I just assume the people who've been listening all the time are still there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like nobody, it's like they've been waiting months or years for us to release this next episode.
But I'm glad they're
Although,
here.
you know that every episode is somebody's first time they've ever actually heard us doing a podcast live before,
I know, and
or in a podcast.
that's kind of the part that my brain can't really wrap around. Like,
Well,
in my
the
mind, some of in my mind, they've all been listening since, like, Lost, and that I know that that's not true, but I come to all of my podcast recordings as if I'm speaking to lifelong listeners and longtime friends. Like, that's how I
yeah,
record.
and I think there's a value to doing that because somebody who is brand new coming into the show, it feels so warm and inviting. It's like, I feel like a
Yeah.
part of the family because they're talking to me as if I'm a longtime listener, even though I've never heard this couple before. It's like, wow, I feel like they speak to me like I'm an insider. Like,
Mhm.
that, yeah, I like it. Hey, real quickly, Chris says it's fun to see a couple doing this. Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And Peggy says, my first time to hear you two together, or to hear you
Wow.
together. Yeah.
Okay.
So, by the way, if anybody is tuning into the live stream and this is the first time you're hearing us, we do have this is our what did we say episode 430
439. Yeah.
yeah, 439th
39.
episode of this particular podcast. And you can find all of the episodes at familyfromtheheart.com. All right. So Stephanie, we breaking news, major announcement has been dropped in this episode. You are going to be recording live every Thursday your Thriving Mosaic podcast
Yes, I
starting
am.
Thursday, November 30th at 11 a.m. Eastern time, correct?
Yes. At
All
11
right.
a.m. Eastern time. Yes.
There's another huge bombshell announcement if you haven't picked up on it already. But let's see what Liz says here. Been a long time listener to you, Cliff, but first time I've listened to you both. That's awesome.
That
And
is.
she says it's a nice treat. Thank you, Liz. We're delighted that you're here. And more stuff. I love these comments coming in. Peggy says, I take that back. Okay, I heard you guys together on Thriving Mosaic, but it wasn't live. Let me ask you, Peggy, is there a difference between you hearing Stephanie and I recording an episode of a pre-recorded podcast and hearing Stephanie and I here interacting live, making stuff up on the fly in front of a live audience and the interactive with the audience? Is there a difference for you? I wonder. But anyway, we'll let the comments build up. If anybody else who hasn't commented, feel free to comment. As you can see, we want to be live and interactive. But Stephanie, we have another big announcement about
Okay.
live podcasting, don't we?
Do we?
Yes.
Okay. What is it? Share it
Thi-
with
w-
me
w-
when you share it with
so
everyone else.
so we've already decided that we want to make a commitment to showing up on Saturdays and doing a live stream together. Yes?
Yes, but we hadn't said that that was going to be any specific podcast.
This is correct. So, by the way, if anybody has never heard of the MSU business model, I adopted this from my friend Rich Litvin. And since this is family from the heart, I'll keep the language family friendly, but just know that the S might have stood for a different word than what I will tell you. But the MSU business model is making stuff up. What are you looking at, Steph?
Huh? I was reading the chats.
Oh, you can't read the chat yet? I'm
It
sorry. Yes,
popped
you
up.
can.
Sorry. It
You
caught
can
my
do whatever you
attention.
want. You don't have the ability on your end to show the chats though, do you?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
It
I
says I
wish I
can
had
join
the
it,
ability.
but no.
Yeah, no. I wish I had the ability to give you admin control to be the one who throws who
Oh, then
chooses
I'd
what.
be far too distracted. That
All
is
right.
way
All
too
right.
much too much control for me. I'd be so distracted.
All right. So let's see here. So nice treat, definitely. Okay. So where have we done this one? I take that back. Okay, yes. Okay, so she says definite. Okay, Liz
This
says
says it's
definitely best this way. All right, and then you can read Peggy's.
and Peggy says yes. It felt more interview style, just the two of you on the podcast, but this is more interactive. And
Okay.
that specific, if it's the show that I think she's thinking of, that was more interview style. But
Yeah.
so
That was intended to be interview
that was
style.
intended to be interview style. And but we have a whole backlog of podcasts that are just this, just
Yeah.
interactive. Sometimes we're making stuff up, sometimes we're not. And
Okay. So back to this live stream. So we decided, hey, and one of the reasons, let me give you the motivation because we want to be authentic to the core and tell you. One of the reasons why Stephanie and I decided to start doing some live streaming together, and the ideas was Saturdays would be our best time, and what we chose, what, 10:30
we
in the
chose
morning?
10:30. Mhm.
Yeah. So, and that's Eastern time. But we decided that doing some live streams, just Stephanie and I together, would be a great way to start getting a little bit more brand awareness for what Stephanie's doing in the world. I mean, there's enough people for me for who know who I am and what I'm doing in the world, and I've been very consistent with lots of content, and I'm showing up in a lot of places, and so when it comes to my business efforts for my coaching, for my mastermind group, and all the other things that I want to create in the world, um, I have a lot of brand awareness out there. But Stephanie had experienced a lot of brand awareness from, well, going all the way from 2005, December 2005, all the way up through when did we stop producing Family from the Heart, like, on an ongoing weekly basis?
I don't know, maybe like 16 or 17? Like 2016 or 17?
Yeah. So it was after we were
Maybe even
still
before
living
then.
here,
Yeah, we lived
but
here. We were still doing it weekly when we first moved here and that was in, 2014, and we still did it weekly for a while, and then I think we took a summer hiatus,
yep.
um, and so it was probably somewhere around, 16 or 17 because I believe we took 2 summer hiatuses before we just said, you know, "We really don't have weekly content to cover."
Yeah, and I think it had to I think there was a couple of things going on. Number 1, there was right around Free the Dream 2018, we were marketing Free the Dream conference, you were preparing for your talk, on stage. Then after that, you had some women approach you and say, "Listen, is there a mastermind group that you host? Is there a way that I can connect with you through coaching?" You started a mastermind group and some coaching. And you did that for a while, even though you weren't intending to do that until after all of the kids had graduated. But then you're like, listen, with all of this stuff that's going on, I really want to focus on my role as a mom and to be here first and foremost for the kids. And I feel like my commitment to creating content, leading mastermind group for these women, and doing coaching, this is keeping me so busy that I don't feel like I'm able to really fully experience all of the opportunities to be with McKenna and Matthew, and it was Megan as well at the time. There's so many things that I'm missing out on that I'm going to not be happy that I missed out on. I think I'd like to pull back from some of these things. And initially it was from creating content, and then eventually you even chose to shut down your mastermind group and your coaching, and from that point, and you did exactly what you intended to do. And then all of a sudden, that now McKenna has graduated, we've entered the empty nest phase, and you've been slowly working your way back into it. It's like, hey, I'd love to get back into hosting a mastermind group. I'd love to be doing some coaching again. And you've been starting back by creating your Thriving Mosaic podcast. But the thing is that who knows about this except for the little random little bits and pieces of where we promote it here and there. But man, there's this Family from the Heart podcast that we have, and we both have a social media following. What if we started doing some live streams to help get the word out that, hey, Stephanie's got offerings as well. Stephanie's got some things to say. She's back in the game again. So how much is my perception of us desiring to come back on Saturdays and do live streams on a pretty consistent basis? How much is that accurate to your perception?
I'd say that's fairly, I'd say that's very accurate. It yeah. I mean, you said it was I stopped recording weekly episodes because I wasn't showing up for, my kids the way I wanted to. We did Free the Dream 2018, and I saw a need, and I filled it, and I loved it, and I absolutely loved it. But I also was able to see that after Matthew had graduated high school and was no longer able to help out with driving the way that he had while he was in school, that I was not showing up for McKenna in the way that I showed up for Megan and Matthew, and that really bothered me. I didn't wanna have to schedule other people to pick her up from school, and I didn't wanna have to, you know, have her find a ride with a friend. I was not showing up the way that I desired to, and I knew that the right thing to do was to close the mastermind, and I did that in 2020, right after quarantine started. So it was actually very beneficial for me because then I was able to be here and be present and be available to her as she was finishing out her freshman year of high school doing, the non-traditional learning or whatever they called it. And on the same thing, we brought Megan home from college, and so I was, here with them for those few months when they were finishing the semester and then the summer. And I don't think McKenna went right back in August, but Megan did. We moved Megan to Bowling Green in August, and so in August of 2020, I wanted to be very present, and so I wasn't jumping back into those things. I was sticking to I was going to wait until McKenna graduated high school, which was in May of this year. And once that had happened, then I'm like, okay, well, now I'll get started. But then we had the summer, and I wanted to spend the summer with her before we moved her to Bowling Green. And so then I'm like, okay, well, she is in Bowling Green. It's time to get started. And then I'm like, well, Megan's getting married in January. And so there are things, and there are projects, and there are meetings, and there are planning, and there are all of these things for Megan's wedding in January. But at the same time, I have to stop putting myself off and stop putting what I want to do off before their things. And so while I have what's the right word? While I have I can't think of
Prioritized?
I not pri no, I was gonna say I have left margin in my calendar to do the
Ah,
things for the wedding, but I have stopped prioritizing them in the everyday sense. Did that come
yes.
out right?
Yes,
Okay.
we're
Okay.
following.
Okay. And so you said, "Let's do live streams," and the funny thing is that when you first said that, I was like, "Oh, okay. We can start doing live streams again." That means on Saturday mornings, I gotta get up, I gotta put on makeup, I gotta fix my hair, um, because that's
Well,
the way I
that's
want to show up. I don't
okay.
have
I
to.
was
That's the way I
don't
want
have
to
to,
show up.
it's what you desire. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
I just wanted to make
And
sure. It's like you don't have to do it for
okay, here's the
me.
thing. I don't wanna sit here for an hour and look at my very red face, because when the light is shining in, it makes me so like, you change your lights to red and blue, and so you got this purple tint to you, but my face is red enough without putting my little green color on, to cover it up. So,
Should
anyway,
we should we design a whole studio lighting scenario for you and black out
no.
your windows and everything?
No, I really think our children would boycott ever covering. Okay, maybe we could black them out. Anyway, that's a joke because every time Megan comes in here, she says we live in a dungeon. But, um,
Which is hilarious, I think. But
she
anyway.
comes in, she's turning on lights, she's opening curtains, and I'm like, "You don't live here. Stop it."
Alright, so back to live
So,
stream. So
anyway, back
so
to live stream,
initially you're like,
and
"Oh my
so
gosh, I have to
Alicia
get." Okay.
and then it really was this call with Liz on Monday that will, release in my podcast episode, release in my feed on Friday,
That'll be
this
episode
on the 24th.
51. Episode
It'll be at
51 of the
61.
Thriving. Is it 61?
It
You're right,
is.
okay.
I
So and
am.
it's over at thrivingmosaic.com, and if you have a hard time spelling or typing thrivingmosaic.com, you can go to stephanieravenscraft.com and click on, podcast, and can I so let me let's see.
That's how I do it.
Thrivingmosaic.com. I just okay, I got it that time. It's for
Okay.
me, I don't have my glasses on, and because I'm over here, my monitor's so far away, so I can't see what I'm typing, and I'm trying to type, but yes, thrivingmosaic.com does work. But
Okay.
again, if you have difficulty typing that in, just go to stephanieravenscraft.com and click on podcast, and you'll see her Thriving Mosaic podcast. And yes, you're correct. Episode 60, by the way, is titled Holiday Expectation. And it's great if you are experiencing some overwhelm and stress as it relates to the number of places you're expected to be for Thanksgiving and Christmas. You might want to check out episode 60 of Stephanie's podcast, and episode 61 will come out.
Friday, the
Did you say this
24th.
Friday the 24th? Wait a
Mhm.
second, but you're
What?
oh yes, that works perfect because you're going to be streaming live the
On
30th.
Thursday.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
the next Thursday. The next
I
Thursday,
will be
right?
streaming live on Thursdays, but then those will be published for Friday. Like they will.
Yeah, they'll be released at 12:01 AM on Friday morning.
Yeah. I knew what I was doing.
I know. I know you. Okay, so that was episode 61. Anyway, so you had this conversation with
So
Liz, and
I had
your
this
thoughts about live streaming changed
It
then?
wasn't really live streaming. It was I th well, obviously, I don't wanna give away the whole episode, which I can't because I don't remember the whole recording, but I think she asked me what was my favorite way to show up to help people. I think that might have been, like, in the same ballpark. Like, it's definitely in the same stadium of what she asked me, and my response, really surprised me when I said it was being live. Now, I referred to something different which is still very true. Um, but then through the hot seat on Wednesday in the Next Level Mastermind, I
At
really got down in
nextlevelmastermind.info, by the way.
okay, I
Right.
really got into it and it is this live, it is this interaction, it is this energy that I have been missing from my from my content. So,
Yes. So all of that, and I think now you're like, wow, I'm really excited about the fact that Cliff and I have decided to show up on Saturdays at 10:30 AM, or yeah,
I
Eastern time,
am. I'd
correct?
be more excited if Cliff actually showed up at 10:30, but,
Well,
Cliff shows up when Cliff shows up, so I just roll with it.
my thing is that we haven't announced anything to anybody yet, and
I
so
asked you last night, "Do you need to post that we're gonna live stream tomorrow at 10:30?" "Nah, it'll be
yep,
okay."
it'll be fine. We'll just show up. We got people who will be there. They'll see us. But anyway, when we do announce it, which I think we're now announcing, is that we've decided that we want to start broadcasting live on the internet. We'll do live streams. And the idea when we started this was, well, hey, we don't necessarily need to do anything with the content. We could just show up and just chat for however long we chat, and that could be our live stream. It's just live with Cliff and Stephanie, right? And my thought, we had already discussed the fact that sometimes we would maybe be able to use the audio of that live stream as an episode and an update for the Family from the Heart podcast, which our thought had been that, we'll try to make sure that Family from the Heart at least gets an episode once a quarter. So once every 3 months, we'll share, hey, this is what's going on in the Ravenscraft family. But that was based upon everything that was in my mind what Family from the Heart was, with the neuro associations to the image for the podcast artwork previously. And so and that's why so much has shifted here. So the idea is that, okay, maybe sometimes we'll create something that's really business related as an entrepreneurial couple, and we could bring back the building an online business, building a life and business together podcast, which I can never say.
Which
And
is further proof that it's not the right show for us.
it's clearly not the right show for us. I mean, I think the idea of having you and I be able to talk about our entrepreneurial pursuits is incredibly valuable. But I don't necessarily think that I wanna have a podcast or I'm sorry, it's not that I don't wanna have a podcast. I don't wanna create content so consistently where that's the focus of everything you and I are talking about.
Right.
Because we talk about business so much outside of our conversations when we're podcasting, and sometimes some of my favorite conversations we have is when we're just chatting about things, and I really love it when we're doing in podcast. In fact, okay, I didn't tell you this, but there were times where I thought, well, maybe some Saturdays I could talk Stephanie into reading a couple of chapters of the Midnight Sun or the new Hunger Games book that where the movie just came out, and I'm like,
I do
are we
wanna
going to
see the
go back there?
movie.
I
I
know
do
you want to
wanna
see the
see the
movie,
movie,
but
but
do you not want to
I'm
see the
not
book? Do you not want to read the book first?
um, no,
All right. Well, we'll
no.
just go see the movie. Let me ask you this. If we go to see the movie, do you want to come back and record a podcast about it?
I would record a podcast about it. Yeah.
And we could put that out as an episode of the Hunger Games podcast, which by the way, you can find at hungergamespodcast.com, I think. Do I still own that?
I don't know.
Hunger Games Podcast.com. I let a lot of domains go over. Yeah, we still own it. Hungergamespodcast.com is still ours.
So we,
Anyway, so the idea is that we would do these live streams, and
mhm,
sometimes we would put it as an episode of Family from the Heart. Maybe sometimes it might fit into a Thriving Mosaic or the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, or maybe sometimes it would fit into that Building a Life, or maybe sometimes it's just a live stream. It just is what it is.
it just is what it
But
is.
we have new artwork for Family from the Heart.
And we need to use it.
It needs to be used. But not only but the thing is I really feel like that new artwork conveys just who it's more of the essence of it's Cliff and Stephanie. We could we'll still have things we talk about with family, but
Mhm.
it'll be along the lines of, the kind of the stage of life that we're in. But we can still talk about business too. So much of our livelihood and the things that we're able to do is as a result of our business. So, I
Right.
what I'm getting at, Stephanie, is I'm wondering if we're going to be here on Saturdays at 10:30 AM, why don't and if we do this weekly, why don't we just make this our Family from the Heart podcast again, streamed live?
I mean, we could try that.
Awesome.
We most definitely we can try that. And if it doesn't work, we reboot and
And
try
we
something
may
else.
get this will just be the 13th or 14th time Cliff says Family from the Heart is coming back on a consistent basis, and then they ghost us again.
This is you really do this a lot where you will state things and then, change your mind or they just don't work out the way that we thought they would or whatever. When you make a decision, you should really stick with it.
Well, here's the thing. What if okay, this let me give you my thinking behind this. Family from the Heart, old artwork means the family of 5, the Ravenscrafts is Cliff and Stephanie mostly talking about our interactions with our kids. I don't know if it hasn't always been that. There's been more than that. I get that. But in my mind, that seemed to be the box that is Family from the Heart. But what I'm getting at now is what would Saturday live streams with Cliff and Stephanie be? It would be a married couple, a husband and wife
Are you
who
not
are
getting that we've always
family.
done that? It's
I
always been that, but our
I
day to day
haven't
has changed.
I have not always thought that as it relates to this podcast. I've known that outside of this podcast, but Family from the Heart has never just been Cliff and Stephanie, a married couple, and it's about them talking about their family. Except that it has, but them talking about their family means that every episode has to be talking about husband and wife and how they're relating to their kids, and they've got kid stories. Do you see what's been going on in my head? Are you following where I'm going with that?
I know what you're saying. I just think that we have really viewed this show differently for a
I
very
know,
long
and
time.
I'm not even saying the box that I'm describing to you that is my mental image of what Family from the Heart has been. I could probably go out. There are what this is. There are 438 episodes in the archives. I could probably easily find at least 200 episodes where we're just talking about things that are only related to you and I and our marriage and our relationship. And I can think about the 5 threats to marital oneness. I can think about all sorts of things. And so now, as I'm actually pondering the question, of course, the show has never been in that limited box. But the artwork of the podcast, which I see every time I think about the podcast, because I publish the podcast and I see the artwork, in my mind, that's what it's been. And so, what are we going to do on Saturdays? If it's not an episode of the Family from the Heart, what is the live stream going to be about other than you and I as a husband and wife getting here and talking about things that are going on in our lives and
Why
things that
can't
we're
it
interested in?
why can't it just be that?
And isn't that what Family from the Heart is and could be about?
Yes. Yes. Like, I mean, seriously, if you wanna draw the parallel, then, we could talk. Last night, we spent, the evening with our oldest daughter and her fiancé. We went to the Festival of Lights. Anyone in the Cincinnati area knows that the Cincinnati Zoo does the, Festival of Lights. It is a big deal. It is well marketed and I don't know anyone who doesn't go to the Festival of Lights at least once in a holiday season. And and so last night we did that with Megan and Jacob, but this year it was a little bit more special for us because I don't know what his actual title is. But our daughter McKenna likes to call Jacob the Cincinnati Zoo's supervisor of holiday cheer. That's not his actual title. But he is the supervisor who was responsible for the installation of the lights for the Festival of Lights. So those lights started going up in August. We have been getting, not regular, but semi-regular updates about how it was going, how far they had left to go. And I know that it takes them from August to November to put the lights up. I know that it will take them until May to get the lights down, and then they start again in August. Like, these are things that I know. And so last night, well, we'd been planning for maybe 3 weeks to go last night because it was the opening night. And I get a call from Megan in the afternoon. Jacob says, "Don't come tonight." And I'm like, "Okay, why not?" Because like 60% of the zoo is not lit. So there was an issue with the boxes that hold the power for the lights because of the rain. And so some of
Well,
the lights were not lit. You can
yeah,
explain
and
technical if you want to,
yes.
but
So I just say the issue is that it's by design, by the way. It's an over precaution on the way that they're doing things on the Cincinnati Zoo's part. So because they don't want,
they have
fires
to
and
protect,
electrical.
right.
So basically, what happens is they have these special sensors that if there's any water that gets anywhere close to a connection of electricity, it immediately triggers the circuit breaker. So basically, any water that is anywhere near a connection causes it to break. And it was pouring, raining, and it
All
was,
day
or at least it was
yesterday.
consistent rain all day yesterday. And so anywhere where water is on a connection for electricity, it's sensed and therefore the breaker is kicked. And there's not much you can do about that. I mean, it is that way by design. So of course, Jacob and his team are out there, shaking the lines and trying to get the water off and all this other stuff. And they press the little circuit reset button. They come on for a half a second, and it's like, and then it goes back out.
And
And
blink
it's like,
and
okay,
yeah.
there's water somewhere else. And I was joking that they need to actually give them like a backpack with a generator and
And
a hair
blow dry it.
dryer, and they just need to blow dry the entire thing. But anyway, that's what it was on. Okay,
So
continue on.
but we're having a good time. We're walking around. We have some really bad zoo food, and not that it's just, park food. And
No, it was really bad zoo food.
it
Uh,
was park food, and
can
on
I
the lower
describe the
quality side.
I'm just gonna out, I'm just gonna out the Cincinnati Zoo. This is going to be Cliff's review. So they have this little food area, and they have these permanent fixture food trucks. So basically, it's not like a food truck that you would, because it's a big deal thing. Like a lot of people like to go and experience food trucks, right?
Mhm.
Well, knowing this, the Cincinnati Zoo has this places like these things look, but they're permanent installations, and really they're nothing more than uh, a facade of what you would have as if they had a little cafeteria that you could go in to get these food. Anyway, they have this chicken strips and fries, food truck, right? So I'm thinking food truck. If you're a food truck and you're going to be serving chicken fingers and fries, you're going to have like a unique take on it, a spin or a spice, or these are going to be like super, because if it was a food truck's only going to stay in business if those tater tots are like, or I'm sorry, those chicken strips are worthy of seeking out that food truck, right? Because word would get around and the food. So I'm going to my mind, it's like, I'm going to have this chicken strips. And I got the chicken strips. And here's what it's like. This is the way I describe it. Imagine somebody is having a graduation party at 4:30 in the afternoon, and they order from their local grocery store where they have the deli and stuff like that. Like we have Kroger. You can order a box, big pans of chicken strips. Now I want you to imagine that you ordered them and you picked them up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then you brought them and set them up in the place where you're hosting the graduation party, and they've been covered with aluminum foil in the aluminum pan that they're in, and the little heat candles underneath it have been heating it up. And I want you to imagine from 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon, it's now time to eat. It is the driest, stalest, nastiest chicken finger you've ever bit into your life. That's what you can get at the Cincinnati Zoo for $14.99.
Anyway, so
And
we had dinner together. We obviously it was not great. Um and we just walked around. It was plenty lit. Like there were plenty of lights that were still lit. Um and then he did describe to us the places that weren't lit, that what they were supposed to look like. And knowing full well that today the sun would come out and it would dry out, and so they'll be fine tonight. Although tonight
yeah.
it would be too cold. And anyway, at one point we're just, walking through the zoo, and I hear another lady say to her husband that they must not have got all the lights up, or they must not have got all the lights on, or something. And so I was able to tell her it's because of the rain, it's a, precaution, whatever. And I felt so good being in the know. Like I loved being so anyway, that's just me being ridiculous. But so last
So the
night we
fun
spent the night at the zoo with Megan and Jacob.
Yeah, and so that's a fun story to say that it's a unique experience knowing that your future son-in-law is actually the supervisor that's responsible for all of the lights, making sure that they are up and look good for Festival of Lights. And it was a fun experience. And also the fact that we went and walked around and experienced that with them together. And that's something that we did as a portion of our family right now. So my question for you, Stephanie, is this. So here's my thinking. Because we just introduced a story of us going to the zoo and the fact that it was with Megan and her fiance, who is soon to be our son-in-law, that makes it worthy of a Family from the Heart episode. But my
No, it was
question, hold on. My question is this. I understand. What if this episode had no mention, no story whatsoever related to any of our children, but instead you and I only went to the Cincinnati Zoo last night and walked around Festival of Lights and we talked about it. Would that be a worthy of a Family from the Heart episode if there's no story? We didn't mention. It's like if somebody was listening to us for the very first time and they didn't know that we had kids and we didn't mention anything about kids, but we just talked about what we did as a husband and wife in this episode, would that still be an okay episode of Family from the Heart in your mind?
Okay. Can I tell you a story that not a story, but can I can I tell you a part of Thriving Mosaic that I just released the other day? Yes? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So I talked about holiday expectations and the pressures that were put on me when I was young, how I broke through those, and that I chose not to put them on my children. And in this, I said, speaking specifically of Christmas Day, that when our kids were very young, I decided that Christmas Day was just about the 5 of us and that we weren't gonna go anywhere. We weren't really gonna have anybody over. I think maybe a couple of times parents came over to see, like grandparents came over to see what the kids got and stuff like that. But for the most part, Christmas Day was about the Ravenscrafts, right? Okay. Moving forward, we have adult children. 2 of them are in committed relationships. Why would I now, even though they do not have children yet, expect them to spend time with me on Christmas Day because they're already a family unit? We were a family unit in 1996 when we got married. We
Yep.
raised 3 adults. Now we are, again, just the 2 of us. We're no less of a family unit now than we were when those 3 were living here. So, I'm not the problem, you are.
So that's. But I'm just wondering, in your mind, if we had episodes or an episode, and
That
we
didn't mention the
neglected
children at
to,
all.
yeah, it's still you and I just talking about what we've been doing over the past week and what we're working on. And if our kids happen to not be in the picture of the story that we're narrating in the episode of what we're up to and what we're thinking about, it's still a Family from the Heart episode. That's what I'm getting at.
It is, and I understand, and what I was getting at with telling the story of going to the Festival of Lights with Megan and Jacob is that we do still see our children. We do still spend time with them. There will still be stories that involve them. If
Yes.
if you and I went to the Festival of Lights alone last night, it wouldn't have changed the pride that we took in that Jacob was responsible for the team that installed the lights. We still would
Well,
have
here
mentioned that.
we still would have mentioned it because it's true. But let's just say that Jacob doesn't have the job at the zoo, but you and I decided to go to the
That's
Festival of Lights.
That's not a
It would
reality
still.
that I live in. I don't
I
live in that alternate reality, so why do I need to worry and
Okay.
fill my
So
mind with that?
what if we actually were to say, "Hey, here's an interesting thing that Stephanie and I decided to do one day." We went to the gym. Did we eat after we went to the gym at the diner in Lawrenceburg, Indiana?
We did, that was nasty. Do not
I
eat
know.
at the Diner on 50, I think is what it's called. Don't do it. Don't. My belly was so sore after, and so was my bank account.
It was insane, the prices they had for the quality of food that they had. The ambiance of the restaurant is okay. I the service was fantastic. The waitress who served us she had a lovely attitude, but the food was it was as high as quality as the food truck at the Cincinnati
The
Zoo.
2. It's funny.
Ah, but
That's
anyway,
funny.
it was it that we but it we went there because it's like, "Oh, this is a new restaurant," and it's like, it's supposed to be like a throwback to the '50s, and it's a diner, and it looks like a really
Mhm.
authentic '50s diner that you typically would only see in television shows or movies, and I'm like, "Oh, let's go in for a unique experience. It's right here." And we went, and Stephanie was not feeling well afterwards, but I will tell you. I think I ordered a cheeseburger. I don't know what you got. I can't remember.
I got a turkey and cheese sandwich, like a grilled
Yeah.
turkey and cheese sandwich with a tomato on it, and
And I had a piece of apple pie, which was the worst piece of apple pie I've ever eaten in my life, and you had the state pie something.
it was like a sugar cream pie. Is the Indiana State Pie. I think it was called sugar cream or something along those
Yeah.
lines, which was good.
Okay.
Was not the best dessert I had ever had, but I was expecting diner pie. I wasn't, like,
Okay.
as far
So
as trying it, my expectations weren't very high, so plus I'd never had that pie before, so I had nothing to compare it to. As you say, you had the worst apple pie ever. But,
and by the way, the serving of the pie is super small. It wasn't anything big. So imagine this. I have burger and fries. Stephanie has a turkey club something sandwich, and we have each a dessert and a soda drink for each of us. All right. How much was it, Stephanie?
after our tip, $63.
$63 for a burger and fries, a turkey sandwich, a turkey club sandwich, and each of us having
It
a
was
little tiny slice of pie. $63.
but it was an experience, and we had it,
It
and we
was an
knew not to
experience.
have it again.
It was an experience, and it was not a pleasant one. Anyway, it was fun. I mean, actually the fact that we were having the same experience was it's like, okay, wow, that we know now to avoid that restaurant at all costs moving forward.
Right. We
Anyway,
shoulda went to
so
Pizza Hut.
yeah, real quickly, last thing, and then we'll wrap this up because this has gone on way longer than either of us anticipated. Where are we going after we finish this live stream?
After we finish, we are going to the Lawrenceburg Holiday Expo, which is it's in the Lawrenceburg Convention Center in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and it is vendors and crafters and people who have brought in all sorts of fun, unique, and different, products to sell for Christmas.
And it's a place where you almost were on the verge of signing up to have a booth to sell your holiday wreaths that you make and stuff of that nature. But there's some unknowns that we were not aware, it's like they said that you have to pay extra for internet, but the question is, do we need to pay for internet, or would we be able to have cell service in there so that you could collect payments via your payments. I think it was
Right.
Shopify or whatever it is that we have access to, or Square. It's either
Square. I
Shopify or
think it's
Square.
Square.
But anyway, so the question is do we need to do that? Do we not need to do that? There's a lots of other unknown things. So Stephanie made the decision not to go in blindly
Participate. Mhm.
to participate, but we're going there on reconnaissance. So we're going to go scope the place out. I want to get a good feel of Stephanie's been there before. I have not, but we're going with the intention of we may even talk to people who are selling things and say, how long have you been selling here, and asking some questions of what it's like to be a vendor and things like that. And so hopefully we'll have enough information to know whether or not next year we want to make it a priority to plan for and budget in for you to have a booth there next year.
Yes. And I'm really excited. Just
Sweet.
both about possibly having a booth next year and number 1 about and going today.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to put this up here real quickly. I just want to let folks know that Stephanie and I are both available for one on one coaching. If you are interested in coaching with Stephanie, you can email her at stephanie@stephanieravenscraft.com. And if you want to reach out to me about coaching, you can email me at cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. And we want to encourage you to, if you're interested in Stephanie's live streams on Thursdays, check her out on her Facebook profile for now. Eventually, maybe her YouTube channel as well. But that's facebook.com/Stephanie Ravenscraft. She will be live Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. No, at 11 a.m.
Eastern
Eastern
time.
time. Got it. And then Family from the Heart, at least for now, weekly basis, live streamed Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Why don't we make it 11 a.m. Eastern time?
It
That
can be
way,
11. That's fine.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's just 11 on both days. So 11 a.m. Eastern time. I think that's it. Anything else?
No,
All
I think
right.
that's it.
Well, thank you. I think that'll wrap it up. So with that, we will end our live stream. And until next time, we encourage you to what, Stephanie?
Live your life on purpose.
All right. So I just ended the audio, and I think I have a little banner here, and we'll hit here. Bye, everybody.